Hi, it's Doug DeVitri with the Co-Track Pro podcast. And if you've been considering mediation, I want you to listen to our next guest, Laura Lorber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a great place to be.
I want you to tell us about some of the biggest misconceptions that parents have about mediation, especially if they're just thinking about getting a divorce or maybe even just revisiting something that wasn't working before.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack in that question. The first thing I want to say is um, people think that you have to like get along and there can't be any big glaring issues in order to divorce. I mediate cases all the time that involve sobriety issues, that involve past domestic violence, that we're trying to figure out if there is coercive control or not. I do parenting coordination with people with borderline personality disorders, and um, and homelessness is often a big issue that I help with. And so these are all issues that my job as a mediator is to figure out how to create the right process to keep you safe and to keep the conversation moving forward. And I do that by just grounding you in your daily reality and thinking about what is really keeping you from moving forward here. If it's safe, we'll all be together. If it's not safe, then we'll go back and forth between virtual rooms. I am 100% virtual. I think that's great for the casework that I do, and it hasn't impacted my agreement rate. So, yeah.
Oh, no, I can see you're dealing with a lot of complex situations, and in many times that there's involving children. And so, how does that play a role into how a mediation might change? And maybe it's a different approach you might use.
Yeah, so thank you. That's my special sauce. I am really child focused. I like to say between being a mediator and being a mediator, when my daughter was young, I became a master infant toddler teacher. And so I learned a lot about how to observe children in order to learn about what's going on with them. Now, I don't do that for your kids, but I can help you to hone in on them through a tool called temperament charting. And then a lot of times it may be important that we talk to people outside of the mediation. We may need to talk to teachers, we may need to talk to school counselors or coaches, and those can be really important people. Some of my favorite mediations are when we have somebody like that in the room, and I can just, casually turn to them and say, well, what do you see when Johnny is leaving at the end of the day? Does anything change? Or if your child has neurodivergence, well, what are the best practices in your experience? And then it's not my role to teach you, but we can all listen and we can all question together and learn what's keeping us from being child focused and how can we bring that into our agreement making process.
Sure. And I imagine there's some situations where mediation just is not an option, right? Like, what are some
Yeah.
of the signs that mediation just kind of is off the table?
Yeah, so the biggest red flag, and if you read, I'm a mediation nerd, so I read a lot of the ethics that comes out. The one thing is that true coercive control, you can't mediate because mediation requires free will. And if working with a mediator like myself, who's sensitive to this and maybe having an advocate and all of this isn't enough to get you to the point where you can make your own decisions for you, then you really need to go the litigation route because we need you protected and we don't want to further the coercive control. Um, the other thing is that mediation is hard. We all know conflict is hard. And you're going to need support to get through it. If the people who generally can't make it through mediation are the ones who are trying to do it without a therapist or a coach or somebody who can help them get through. We will get to parts in mediation where nobody knows how to move forward. That's the genius of mediation. We figure it out, but it takes a lot of grit to get through that.
Yeah, and you
Um,
were talking about different professionals, right, there who can be in part of your team. Who would you suggest, like, for the best outcome to be a part of that team? Or maybe there's other professionals that you might need to bring in for some
yeah.
extraordinary circumstances.
So the first thing we want to do when you come to me for whatever it is it a separation agreement? Is it a modification of an agreement? Is it a full divorce? Like what are the goals here? What are the important things? Is this a gray divorce? And really, what we need to do is to make sure that everybody's supported through the process. You know where you're going to live and how you're going to afford that, and then protect your retirement. Okay, so now we're looking at what are our financial, we need somebody who is specialized in pensions, maybe. We need somebody who is going to look at your stocks and not just understand how to divide them up based on today's value, but looking forward. That's your CDFA. Maybe you're in a marriage that is super traditional and one partner handled all the finances and the other person has never written a check. Believe it or not, it still happens. Well, now we need you to sit down with a CPA and really get educated on how money works and how do you write that check and how do you record it and how do you set up a budget. So that's one thing. Okay, what if you come to me and um, your child, you have one, neuro normal child and one neurodivergent child, and we have to come up with one parenting plan. Okay, well, let's get clear on looking at these children separately and who do we need to bring in the room? Um, Maybe your children are at that age where they are naturally going to be a little bit more sneaky. They're naturally a little bit wiser to how to work the parents. And they really want to go to that concert and they know exactly how to call mom and say what to mom and exactly how to call dad and rev him up. And all of a sudden, like parenting goes out the window and now it's just a conflict between mom and dad. Okay, well, now we need a parenting coach and we need somebody, maybe even a therapist for the kid to like help them understand, like, yes, you have that power. Let's not use it. So, there is no, I can't tell you like, oh, you're going to come to me and this is who you're going to work through. But that's also my process. The first 2 hour session is joint, and these are exactly what we're establishing. Like, what is my role? What are we trying to accomplish here? Who else might you need to be meeting with? I haven't even talked about do you need to be working with a mortgage specialist? Do you need to be talking to a realtor? All these different things. And then from there we go into individual session because sometimes there's things you can't say in front of the other person, but I need to know them in order to create a process that is safe and productive for you.
Gosh, that
Yeah.
seems it seems quite a lot, right? Considering trying to come to an agreement and how many different professionals, I can imagine that the costs add up significantly. What happens in a situation where you have a parent who might run out of money,
Yeah. So we want
because
to
you have
know
so many
about
prof
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we want to know about that immediately. And is this a truly collaborative divorce where you're going to be paying for everything together? Not such an issue. Is this an unequal situation? Well, let's be really mindful. Like how can we fill in? And this is where I think your tools can really start filling that gap, Doug. If there are things that are just financially out of range. You and I were talking earlier about a client of mine who just he never had a dad and he never had, somebody just teach him how to create goals and be accountable. Well, I can't send him to a coach. He can't afford that. But if there's a tool out there that he can talk to and that can help him set smart goals and can check in with him, every few days, Sometimes it's as hard for these parents as knowing, okay, I know I'm supposed to get on this co-parenting app. What I don't even like, what do I do? And so sometimes I'll just go to AI and say, I need to do this. Give me all the steps. Make him as small as possible so that I actually accomplish this.
Yeah, gosh, it's so great. And we were talking about kids earlier and child-centered, and
Mhm.
there's this new term, and it's really not a new term, but most people are just seeing it, hearing it for the first time, is trauma-informed. Can you tell
Mhm.
us about the importance of having trauma-informed practices through mediation and really educating parents, the damage they could be creating, you know?
Yeah. So the way that I got really good at working on what I like to call the edges of mediation, where I say I handle these things like sobriety and all this, is I worked for the LA courts for many years, um, and helping people who just haven't figured it out. And so what I love about my work is my hope is that we will figure it out together. And then you are creating a legacy for your children of knowing what it looks like to engage in conflict in a healthy way, to grow out of it. Because these things, look, there's been a lot of research done. Divorce is clearly an adverse childhood effect. Now, whether that becomes something that derails your entire children's lives is something else. And your job as a parent is to manage your stress level and keep them out of the divorce process. And I say that like it's easy, and it's not. And that's where this trauma-informed stuff comes in, is how do we make sure that you leave the conflict in the room and go out and be the parent you need to be? And how do you understand how damaging it is to a child to be the message, you know, to take messages between the two parents and have to embody the role of an adult because the two parents can't figure out how to communicate to each other. It's incredibly damaging to children.
Yeah,
So,
this is something that not just happens to children, but this can also become intergenerational, right? Where it
right.
spreads to the next generation.
And
You know,
that's where I think my work is to like this stops here, right? This we're done. We don't want to pass this on to the next generation.
if there's something you wish, I guess, judges could look at, because they're very concerned about the rule of law, right? They're very concerned about their rules of procedures.
Mhm.
If there's one thing that you could see that would help the institutions that we have to become more trauma informed, what would you say it would be?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a wonderful specialty court in Massachusetts, and I think they have figured it out. And what they do is they do the collaborative process in court. And I think the future of litigated divorce is that the judge shouldn't be ruling on everything. The judge should be pushing as hard as they can for the family to make their own decisions. And if there is some little issue that truly can't be agreed on, it's a whole skill. I write these very narrow stipulations. It's just basically, Judge, this is the issue. Mom wants this, dad wants this. I need a yes or I need a no. And that's it. And then that goes to the judge, and the judge should turn around and send them right back to mediation. Um, because sometimes we do need that magic wand. Okay, we're done arguing. Here's the answer. Now let's move forward.
Yeah. And how many mediation sessions would you say it would normally takes to do something that might be, I guess, on the easy side to maybe the complex?
On the easy side, we're probably looking at like starting around 6 hours if you're doing a full divorce, right? Because the first 2 hours are like intake.
Yeah.
And then the mid, 2 hours are the parenting plan, and the last 2 hours are the economics. Now that is for truly the family where like we basically get along, we basically can talk. There's just a couple issues, and we want you to walk us through it. From there, when I do the mediations for the Los Angeles courts, this is just a parenting plan. We don't talk about money, we don't talk about anything else, and we give those a full 9 hours. Um, and people hear that and they say, I don't need a psychologist. I just need somebody who, is going to be a lawyer and just help us get through this discussion. Well, if it was that easy, you would be done already. But there's something that is preventing you from getting to the finish line. So let's slow down and unpack that a lot.
This is so good. So, as far as people following up with you and resources, what's the name of your website? Or maybe you have other
Yeah,
resources where people can connect with you afterwards.
thank you. My website is Gradient Resolutions, and I call it that because I like to say I deal in the full gradient of conflict resolution, from teaching classes before you ever have an issue to coaching or prepping for a mediation. I can do your full divorce. I often work with attorneys and just do little pieces to keep the case moving forward and keep the conflict down. And then there's the modification and parenting coordination at the end. Um, and so I have a few pieces up there to help you think through what is a good way that I could help you. Now, if you're a full divorce, I can only help you in California. But if I'm just doing pieces for you, or if I'm doing parent coordination, I can do that wherever you are. I also am on LinkedIn at Laura Michelle Lorber and on Facebook at Gradient Resolutions. And I made a little gift to myself, and I created this workbook called Your Co-Parenting Plan Blueprint. And this is really getting to that idea that people want to come in and go straight to negotiation, and they haven't done the work to think through what they even need or how they want to ask for it. And so this is available on Amazon. You can go on my website. I am looking to build a community to help you work through it, because there's no point in buying a book and then having it sit on your shelf. So let's get through it and help you out.
That's so great. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being a part of the Co-Track Pro podcast. I'll put the links in the show notes. Make sure everybody to go check out Laura's blueprint on Amazon. I'm definitely looking forward to as well. So,
Thank
Laura, I look
you.
forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you, Doug. This was wonderful. Have a great day.